What a fantastic year 2019 has been for the Nintendo Switch. It may have started slow for the first half of the year, but the second half has been packed with hit after hit. Together as a team, we've reviewed dozens and dozens of games, and we're here today to share with you our top 15 games of the year.
Each of us decided to pick our top 5 games and slam them together to create this list for you, ladies and gentlemen, so maybe it's best to think of it as 3 top 5s rather than a top 15. Just a heads up that this list is our personal opinion and is based on the games that we've played for the first time this year that released on the Switch in 2019.
Naturally, that may mean there may be some older ports in this list, but because we enjoyed them so much, we just had to include them. It's also worth noting that because we're always so busy reviewing games, we do miss a couple of the more obvious choices, but that also makes a far more eclectic list for you guys, so just keep that in mind.
Let's start with each of our top 5s. Number 5.
First up for me, it's Shakedown Hawaii, Blank Entertainment's follow-up to Retro City Rampage. This is a retro GTA-style romp with a heavy dose of 80s styling. It takes you from the cutthroat boardrooms of big business to the shady underbelly of crime. In this one, you play as an aging CEO of a once successful business that's on the brink of collapse, his gang member's son, and a shifty business consultant who is basically a hitman. It's a top-down, pixelated, beautiful world, and your aim is to take over the island through nefarious means and by buying up businesses, or by just exploring and causing carnage. I love the humorous story that pokes fun at the modern world through its cutscenes, and it's a blast on the move. As you play and build your empire, the game does get a bit repetitive in the end, but still, this is a solid experience overall that I strongly recommend.
As you know, I love my indies, and Children of Morta left a big impression on me this year. I feel it is one of the best indies of 2019 on the Nintendo Switch. The story and how it's told is instantly engaging. I absolutely loved how it was narrated from the off, but once it gets you hooked with its narrative, you then have a wonderful atmospheric score with some great visuals to depict this family of people, all of which you can control to defend Morta through some excellent dungeon crawling. Lots of spells and each character with their own playstyle. I very much enjoyed it, and on top of all of that, you can play with a friend too. Absolutely essential.
Dusk Diver is a game that came out of nowhere for me. I wasn't particularly hyped for it, despite an interesting trailer, but during one of the physical games videos that I do, everyone was commenting about this game, and so I just had to review it for you guys, and I fell in love. What it is a rough around the edges, basic enough brawler, but the style, personality and pizzazz really won me over, making it one of my favourite games of this year. It's mixing Dynasty Warriors with Persona, which yes, we know is officially coming next year, but this mid-tier underdog release was enough to win my heart. It's rough for sure, and in the end I give it a 7.5 out of 10 for general gaming audiences, but I did the unthinkable and included a personal rating too, which was a 9, even though I'm the only mental person in the world who'd probably think that.
Number 4. Next up is The Witcher. While not strictly a new game, it's a new game for us Switch players. And what an incredible job, by the way, Saber Interactive have done with the port. How they got this mammoth action RPG on the Switch in the first place is a bloody miracle in my eyes. If you've not played The Witcher yet, then brace yourself for over 70 hours of fantastic RPG gameplay. With over 250 awards, a story-driven open world, you just cannot go wrong here. Lots of weapons for you to delight in, with great combat, a game which will hold your attention for hours and hours on end. And it runs absolutely great on the Nintendo Switch.
Super Mario Maker 2 came and went without much fanfare. The first week of release was rife with people on social media talking about and showing off this game, then it kind of died away, with not much talk about it since, as Nintendo has failed to support it with updates. That was until this week. Pretty much half a year after release, we get the first major update, which has included some incredible potential within. A few new enemies and items, but most importantly, being able to play as Link in the original Super Mario Bros. Style. It's not just a sprite swap though, as Link has so many new abilities. I'm sure this is going to completely revive the Super Mario Maker scene, in terms of creativity. So many more options. Also, hopefully it opens the door to some other Nintendo characters with their abilities. Kirby, anyone? So yeah, even though it died initially after release, I did thoroughly enjoy making new courses and playing everyone's weird and wacky creations. That's why it's my number 4 for this year.
Vampire is a gothic action RPG set in London during World War I and the Spanish flu epidemic. Dark times indeed. There is something appealing about vampires, the mythology, their supernatural powers, and their story, so it's a surprise that there aren't many great vampire games out there. In Vampire, you play as Dr. Jonathan Reed, a blood expert that gets turned. The story is engaging throughout, and it pivots around the struggle Dr. Reed faces as a doctor, someone sworn to help people, and his new urges and need as a vampire, tempted to feast on those same people. It's an ambitious title that doesn't get it perfectly right, but is nevertheless riveting from start to end. The engagement you have with the citizens of London and the fact that you can snack on anyone you encounter results in brilliant role-playing that is rarely seen outside of giant studios like BioWare. The action is not the finest, but is nevertheless enjoyable. The fact that you have a skill tree and progression, complete with various weapons and styles to play, are very welcome additions. If you are in the market for a darker tale and immersive world, then look no further than this brilliant port.
Before we get any further, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to consider subscribing. If you've enjoyed the video so far, you won't regret it. We have some awesome Switch reviews and features that you won't want to miss. Plus, when we get to 50,000 subscribers, we're giving away a Nintendo Switch Lite for one of you lucky people.
Number 3.
Super Robot Wars T was the biggest surprise of the year for me. I'm sure you're all tired of me talking about this one so often, but it was really one of the best experiences that I've had this year, and the biggest surprise for sure. It's like playing an anime if anime was a strategy RPG. I don't really have much investment in anime, and I usually don't care about mechs, but Super Robot Wars T is balls to the walls goodness. Sadly, it's not easy to get a hold of the English release, as it's only available as a physical import. There's no way to get the English release via an eShop, which is sad. But I've got my physical copy, and if you fancy one yourself, I'll pop a link below in the pinned comment and description to find out for yourself. Also, be sure to check out my review to, check out what I'm talking about.
God Eater 3 was my biggest pleasant surprise of the year. All I knew about it really was what I had heard, that it's a Monster Hunter clone. That moniker doesn't do this game justice. It stands tall on its own 2 feet and is certainly different enough from Monster Hunter. The premise of the game is that in a dystopian future, monsters called Aragami run rife and terrorize humans who fight back with AGEs. People who can bond with huge oversized weapons called God Arcs and go to town on the beasties. The story is pretty interesting, but this is all about the action, and whilst calling it a Monster Hunter clone isn't fair, the game's gameplay loop is very much the same. You head out, kill big bad monsters, loot them, get stronger, and head out in search of bigger, badder monsters and repeat. It's a tried and tested rhythm, but what I love about God Eater is its snappy battles, rarely lasting more than 10 or so minutes, which makes it an excellent fit for playing on the move. All of this is brilliant fun on your own, and even better in co-op either online or locally.
Now, new Super Lucky Tail was built from the ground up on the Nintendo Switch, so in essence it is like a new game. This took me back to my childhood with those wonderful 3D platformer games. The Nintendo Switch has its fair share of them, but this one stood out to me with how charming it was and how accessible it is to play. Really smooth, and a camera which you can now control took away most of the gripes it had when it was on the Xbox. This is a game that you can play with your family and all have great fun. Lovely visuals, wonderful music, and a cute protagonist with lots of fun levels to play through. What more could you ask for?
Number 2.
Next up is the fantastic Double Cross. This one is an action-adventure platformer that feels like Mega Man with a little Sonic thrown in. It takes place at Rift headquarters, an interdimensional police force. Think Men in Black. The story is one big whodunit, full of bonkers aliens from different galaxies, including my personal favourite, a bodybuilder Brussels sprout dude. Yes, it's the muscles from Brussels. You play as Zara Sinclair, and controlling her is nice and tight. She jumps around using a nifty proton slinger, and I love that this game is set across 3 worlds, each with a distinct look and feel. The audio from each world is spot on and evokes the sense of that planet along with the brilliant world design, something we have to give the developer credit for. Each world has its unique quirks, and in between missions you try to discover the mystery behind whodunit, leading to a mini detective area, giving the story some interactive elements. This is a polished package that takes me back to my younger days when I would get sheer delight from great games.
Astral Chain was platinum perfected in my opinion. Excellent action surrounded by an amazing setting and concept that it's a game that just totally gripped me. Sure, it may not have quite as much depth as some of their other titles, but as a full package, including all the parts, it very much may be their best game. I thoroughly enjoyed playing it, and just talking about it is making me want to go back and play it again. It's also one of the more low-key AAA games on the Switch. While it probably did well with hardcore audiences, I still don't think it's managed to break the million sold mark, which pretty much any Nintendo published title can usually manage these days. If you haven't got it yet, get it.
I don't need any help killing chimeras.
Ni no Kuni, again for me, while it is a port, I loved it on the Nintendo Switch. While not the newest of game, it still looks absolutely gorgeous with its absolutely stunning visuals, which hold up so well today. The storytelling is absolutely great, and with the use of storyboard animations created by the legendary Studio Ghibli, it also has a great musical score created by Joe Hisaishi. You just cannot go wrong here with the fantastic adventure with Oliver and his trusty companion Drippy.
Before we get into our final choice, just a heads up that if you want to support the show, a handful of the games mentioned here today are available on physical media, and if you're buying anyways, consider using our affiliate links in the pinned comment and description. It helps us keep improving the show for all of you. Number 1. It has to be the epic MOBA from Hi-Rez Studios, Smite. The fact that this game is free to play is a brilliant start, but it's the sheer addictive gameplay and replay value that has kept me around since January. Smite draws on mythology from religions and legends around the world. In the game you play as a god from these pantheons in epic battles. As far as source material goes, you really cannot beat it. Whilst this game was originally released back in 2013, the Switch has benefited from all of those years of patching and updates. What we have on the Switch is a game at its prime with very little flaws, and there are no sacrifices in the fantastic port onto the Nintendo Switch, and you have the ability to cross-play and cross-progress so you can ensure quick game times and you can play with your mates. Smite is a superb competitive title, a fantastic port that looks and sounds great, is brilliant to play, and is free. What more could you ask for? Nothing, I say, and that's why it's my number 1 pick. Now excuse me while I head back and play some more.
Lastly from me, another indie game which I enjoyed immensely from publisher Merge is Valfaris. The studio which created another game which I absolutely enjoyed is Slain Back from Hell from the makers Steel Mantis. Here we have a 2D platformer with stunning pixel artwork, an absolutely rocking soundtrack, and some awesome foes to take down with all manner of cool weapons. Lots of bosses here too. This is an indie just too good to miss and should be in everybody's collection.
If you've been following a few of my recent reviews, you may already be able to guess what is coming. Luigi's Mansion 3 is my game of the year. Polished to absolute perfection, there's no doubt in my mind that this is the best experience in gaming that I've had this year. While we all thought it would be decent, I don't think many predicted it would be one of the top tier Switch games, which is exactly what it is. In 10 to 20 years from now, when everyone's doing a retrospective on the Switch, there's no doubt that Luigi's Mansion 3 will be talked proudly alongside Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey as the best of the best on the system. It is my game of the year. And there we have it, guys, our top 15 games of the year from our personal perspective.
Let us know your top 5. We would love to know your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree with us?
Leave a thumbs up and perhaps check out the playlist of reviews we've put together of all the games in this list if you're looking for some more in-depth analysis.
We'll see you over there.